see how long it takes for me to cry in this video. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marissa for those of you who are new here, and thank you so much for watching. It has been a little bit since I've done a sit-down video and just honestly been in front of the camera. Been finishing up some like vlogs and some like renovation kind of videos, or you know, I have like the nursery makeover that should already be up. Also, am I like centered? Yeah. And like the master reorganization. But it's been a while since I have sat here and just chit-chatted with y'all. So based off the title, and as you can see on the thumbnail, my twins are here. And so I figured I'd just throw on some makeup as more to have something to do with my hands and talk about the labor and delivery of my twin boys. So I am not going to ramble too much, and let's just dive on in. And it's very possible I will get emotional. I also put a disclaimer here. I don't know how graphic I'm going to be, but just letting you know, I will be talking a lot about the labor and delivery aspect, obviously, and I just want to give a little disclaimer that it might get pretty graphic. So if you have kids around and don't want them to hear this, just giving that disclaimer right now. Okay, I guess I should put on some makeup. Oh gosh, okay. I will link everything that I use down below, because I'm going to try to focus more on the whole, I don't want to say story, but just what happened. I am actually going to start out with the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum, and I'm actually going to be using this as a foundation. My boys were born on Valentine's Day, so the day of filming this is exactly 3 weeks ago. I wasn't expecting them to come on that day, but lo and behold, they had other plans. So I've kind of talked about this in a previous like get ready with me. I have a whole like twin pregnancy journey playlist, which I'll link down below, that just kind of has some videos of us getting ready for the twins, and then I also have some get ready with me's in there, kind of talking about my pregnancy and how it wasn't exactly the easiest of pregnancies, physically, mentally, emotionally. There was unfortunately a lot of drama that obviously didn't make things easy, but I go in more details of those videos, so if you want more details on that, you can go check those videos out. So going towards the second trimester, I obviously had to have my anatomy scan with a specialist. So I have, with twins, you kind of need you need to go to a specialist specifically so that they can monitor them. Not like your OB can't monitor them. It's just there's a little bit more to it with a multiple pregnancy or twin pregnancy. So towards the end of the second trimester, going into the third, I was diagnosed with hypertension and slight onset of preeclampsia. Now, if you have no idea what that is, it's just high blood pressure, and the high blood pressure could cause strokes, it could cause also fetal harm, it could cause placental issues. I'm going to go with the Fenty concealer. Should I zoom you guys in more? I think I should zoom you guys in more. I got diagnosed with that. Now, I've never really had high blood pressure issues. I'm, relatively healthy besides the Crohn's disease, unfortunately, which is what I have. So with that being said, I had to get a blood pressure monitor and just be monitoring my blood pressure closely. And if it got to a certain point and I've had other symptoms, a lot of times I had to go to the hospital. Like January alone, I was in and out of the hospital I think I ended up going like 5 times, to be honest. Well, I went a little extra on that. Yeah, I was at least 5 times in January, I think. Just to make sure, because twins, it's such a high risk pregnancy. They also don't want to take any chances, so they just want to make sure, the high blood pressure isn't causing anything. I'm not going into early labor. So, unfortunately, yeah, I had to go to labor and delivery multiple times. Then it got to the point where I was getting monitored and seen twice a week. I would go to the specialist on Monday, then I go to my OB on Thursday, have a bunch of monitors, ultrasounds, check blood pressure, and go from there. So I was, the entire pregnancy pretty much, I was taking low dose aspirin and my prenatals, not really anything else. They did at one point put me on like blood pressure medication, then they took me off of that. So it was like a whole thing. So on February 12th, I go to my specialist like I do every Monday to get seen. At this point, I'm about to be 33 weeks. Check the boys. At the time, I obviously didn't know that they were boys, but check on the boys. Everything was fine. Like their ultrasound was fine. Initial blood pressure was fine. And, both the OB and the specialist were just like warning me like, hey, there may come to a point where you may just have to go into the hospital and be there until the the twins are born. So I go in there and get my blood pressure taken, and it's unusually high. So at that point, the doctor looks at me and he's like, look, I think we've waited long enough. I'm like, fine, great. So I'm going to go and this is not the first time this has happened. So I was thinking, great, I'm going to go there. My blood pressure's going to be fine. And then they're going to send me home and it's just going to be a whole thing. And obviously that annoyed me. And because I feel like I was doing pretty well. Like I feel like, granted, was my diet perfect? No, but I feel like it was very well balanced. I was adding the calories. I was trying to put on the weight, and that was like another thing. I wasn't gaining a whole lot of weight. I gained, just for transparency, I gained 20 pounds the entire pregnancy. I'm going to go into something kind of new to me. This is a Dibs Desert Island Duo Blush Bronzer Stick. I got this in a FabFitFun box, and this is in the shade 2. So the blush is You Do You, and the bronzer is Mood Boost. This is like I think second time I've used this. So I was just thinking, I'm like, great, this is gonna be the song and dance like again. Go over there, and at the appointment, my mother-in-law and of course my husband was there. We go over there to labor and delivery, and I get admitted, the whole spiel. Get in there, get hooked up, monitor, boys are fine, my blood pressure is fine. It's a little high, but nothing crazy. They don't have to medicate me. And my OB comes in and she goes, okay, we're going to check you and just check and make sure I'm not dilated. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, after she does that, she goes, hey, she asked me, are you feeling any pains? I'm like, no, not really. Just normal, what I think are Braxton Hicks. Just, normal pregnancy pains, right? And I didn't think there were any timed or anything. And she goes, oh, well, you've been having contractions this entire time, and they've been fairly consistent of every 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, no, I did not think that. No, I'm okay. I'm not really in pain. And so she goes, yeah, and you're also a centimeter dilated. I'm like, what? So I guess I could back up a little bit. The Saturday before I went to that last specialist appointment, I was not feeling great. And I was just feeling, a little off, a little more lethargic. Felt like a little bit more tired. And I just was overall feeling just uncomfortable. And I just kind of, again, chalked it off to, just normal normal day in pregnancy, you know? So when I found that out, like on Monday, I was like, hey, you're in labor. My mom and I are thinking that I was like, that was maybe the kickstart of the labor and I just didn't know it. My water didn't break either. So that was, yeah, so I was on the beginning stages of labor and didn't know it. Okay. You know, I'm going to use the blush side. Well, that's good to know. So I guess I am stuck here. This is not one of those times where I'm going to be going home and then having to come back and we do this song and dance again. Like, no, you're in labor. And I'm like, okay. All right. So I'm in labor, or, you know, I'm in the start of it. This is Monday, feeling fine. They start, you know, doing the whole process, limiting my food, blah, 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 blah. So just in case that a lot of it is just because we didn't know if I'm in full on labor and ready to, you know, deliver, we don't know if twin B is going to flip, and they need to have, like, obviously my belly empty just in case they have to, you know, put me under for a C-section. So this is Monday. Tuesday rolls around. I haven't really moved and haven't really had any major contractions. They end up moving me to a different room because they needed that room. And I wasn't far along. And again, I was just being monitored, checking blood pressure, all that. So I was moved to like a postpartum room. Then I was just fine, you know, whatever. Contractions were like slowly, like coming around Tuesday, contractions were slowly starting to build. Again, nothing crazy. Then at the end of that Tuesday, like I'm pretty much just a waiting game at that point. So Tuesday evening rolls around and I am moved back to labor and delivery. And they're like, okay, so if your blood pressure is okay, we're going to give you Pitocin in the morning and, you know, get this thing rolling pretty much. So on Tuesday, I started feeling contractions more and more, and they hadn't really checked me if I was dilated more or anything like that. They just kind of left me alone a little bit, which is fine. Yeah, it's fine now, but I was kind of surprised because I'm like thinking I'm such a high risk pregnancy. You wouldn't think like there would be more, I don't want to say like pomp and circumstance, but like wouldn't there be more like attention? Wouldn't they be like constantly checking me? Be a lot more concerned, but a lot more just like, nope, you're not ready yet. It's fine. You know, I'm fine. I feel fine. I'm not in a ton of pain. And I don't feel like these babies are coming out. My blood pressure's good. So it's like, it was one of those things as I was confused, but I'm like, okay, I don't want to be, you know, bugged. You know, I want to be relaxed through this whole process, or at least as relaxed as much as possible. I'm going to go in, wrong thing. I'm going to go into the e.l.f. powder foundation. I discovered the other day that a lot of my foundations and powder foundations are a little too dark. So this is my lightest one. Anywhoozles. So Wednesday rolls around. We start the Pitocin, I want to say like 7 a.m. or 8. So at this point, I'm technically been in labor for 3 days already. And yeah. Again, blood pressure is starting to get a little high. And, but the babies were fine. I was fine, like I felt fine. But before they even started the Pitocin, I was getting, like, could feel the contractions more and more, breathe through them, not a problem. And then they were gradually increasing the Pitocin every half hour. And they would do it by, I think, they did it by 2. So it started at 2 milliliters and then, you know, increased going forward. At the end of the whole thing, I ended up being at, like, I think it was 16, if I remember correctly. It was 16 when I ended up going to deliver. But before all that, the nurse was telling me, like, hey, I know you want to do this all natural, which is fine, but know that if you change your mind, just try it and let me know, like, 25 minutes beforehand if you want the epidural. And then I can get it. It's a whole process. So try not to do it at the point where you're like, I'm dying, I need the epidural now kind of a thing. I said, okay, my goal is to obviously not have an epidural. That was my whole plan, not have an epidural, try to avoid C-section, and try to birth them naturally. Now, was I completely closed off of C-section? No. Honestly, at the beginning, I was completely adamant I did not want an epidural. I wanted to really experience this whole process as fully as possible. I was going through, okay, fine. Then, as, you know, things started increasing with the Pitocin, that means, you know, the labor pains and contractions started to get more and more. Oh, that was the other thing. In the morning, they checked me, and I think it was at like 3. So I did dilate a little bit, but nothing crazy. And then when they were consistently checking me, it wasn't really changing a whole lot. My hair is just a sight in this video. Then I want to say around, oh, by the way, and also I haven't eaten in like, realistically, I haven't had solid foods at that point in almost 48 hours. Was it 48 hours? No, almost 24 hours, because they did let me eat that Monday night, which, if you know me, I'm not very pleasant when I don't have food. And also, I'm also not a very big person. I have a very fast metabolism. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to need energy to get through this process. And I understand why they, and I understand why they don't, you know, want me to have food in my system. Like, I get it. It's just, you know, it was a lot. So, I'm trying to get through this. You know, breathing through contractions, no problem. To me, it was feeling very similar to when I have a flare-up with Crohn's disease. And as it escalated, it was, okay, this is the same as an escalated, really bad flare-up. So it was a very similar pain. My parents flew in, and so my mom was there, and they were kind of funny. They were kind of entertaining me and, you know, in a sense, distracting me from the pain. And then my dad would make jokes of looking at the, you know, the little monitor thing, and they're like, oh, I can see a contraction coming, you know, things like that. Which would annoy the crap out of me, but, you know, looking back, it was kind of funny. And so you can see it started to escalate, and they're looking at it, and they're like, are you feeling that? I was like, yeah, I'm feeling it. And they're like, okay. And I was like, you know, just breathing through it, nothing big deal. By the time, I want to say 4 o'clock hit, that's when I was like, okay, I need to stand. I need to be distracting. I need something distracting. I need, like, you know, just trying all the things. You know, I'm pretty good. I have a really high pain tolerance. Crohn's disease has definitely helped with that. So I was trying all the things. Then probably about 6 o'clock rolls around, and I'm like dying at this point. Like, my mom, after my mom was telling me that you typically with contractions, granted every pregnancy and birth is different, you get a little break, like it goes up and then it goes back down to 0. And my mom was telling me that I never actually truly got a break. It would go up to, she said it was off the chart, and then it would drop to like a 5, like out of 10. And so she's like, realistically, you didn't get a break. And I'm pushing, and I'm like trying to get through this at this point, and I'm like, now I'm on the bed, I can't do, like, I'm not able to deal with it. This might make me cry. I was having a hard time because it felt like a normal flare-up, but it was a flare-up that never dissipated, never went away. I was like, just trying to hold on, squeeze the hand. I was, you know, squeezing Jordan's hand. I was trying to stand. I was trying to do anything just to, like, get me through this pain. And it got to the point where they had to keep checking me. And I was like, please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. And so they would give me a break. And then the nurse came up to me. She's like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm kind of dying. And I'm debating. And, like, I was good. The nurses, honestly, were the best. And they were the best. I'm so grateful that I had the nurses that I had, and especially the one that kind of got me through the day with the contractions and, you know, was monitoring me and, you know, doing my Pitocin and all that. Like, my mom was there at the point, like, my dad was in the waiting room, my mother-in-law was in the waiting room, like, it was to a point where it's just, like, I couldn't have really anybody else in the room. Like, Jordan was with me, and my mom was with me, and I was just fighting my brain and what I really wanted, and, you know, what I thought was right and what would work for me was not getting the epidural, and kept trying to tell myself I could do this, but I was at the point where it's like I couldn't do it anymore, and I ended up getting the epidural. And, like, the nurse was telling me, she goes, look, she's like, look, this is not a defeat. Oh, good thing I haven't done my eyes yet. She said this was not a defeat, and she said that I would rather you have the epidural just in case twin B flips and you will still be awake. Because if you don't have the epidural and twin B flips, they will have to completely knock you out. And so I want you to be able to experience the whole thing. And that's what she was kind of talking me through. And I kept telling Jordan, like, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I think I need the epidural. And so I caved and got the epidural. I was, like, apologizing. I don't know why I was apologizing. Because, you know, this is, everyone was there was just trying to help me. And I, like, felt so guilty because that's just not what I wanted. And so, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but honestly, fortunately, I got the epidural and I was able to breathe. By the time the epidural came around, I was already at, like, 7 centimeters. And then the epidural kicked in, and this is around 7 o'clock now. So I've technically been in labor for 3 days. Had started having contractions, you know, 48, like, you know, or feeling the contractions anyways, before, like, the day before. Around midday, honestly, I want to say it was, like, Tuesday, where I was, like, really starting to feel them. And so I was realistically, I feel like, feeling the pain for about 24 hours at that point. And so it was a long time. And so, yeah, I was really, like, fighting with myself because like I said, I wanted to experience it. Like, I think there's a little bit of a pride thing, which I know is one of the 7 deadly sins, is for just to say, like, I did it, and I did it without any help. And obviously that's not true. You have help of nurses and doctors and all these kinds of specialists and, you know, things like that, and medicine, and, you know. Oh, I also forgot the other thing. I totally forgot about this. So before, I want to say Wednesday about midday, when they were starting to see my blood pressure kind of spike, and just granted, I'm pretty much just in a hospital, but I'm not really doing anything. I'm not walking around a bunch of places, you know, all that. Like, I'm not doing anything to increase my heart rate. So they ended up putting me on magnesium, and what that's doing is helping prevent any strokes from occurring. And the best way to describe magnesium, that stuff's no joke. So I would get it intravenously. When I got that, it put my brain in a fog, and I feel like this also contributed to just me not being able to focus, because it makes you so lethargic. And to me, if it's like, if you've ever had morphine for, like, a surgery, or just you know, for any other reasons, like, for any reason, if you've ever had morphine, magnesium is like getting morphine without the body numbness. So you have that, I don't want to say a high, because it makes you very lethargic and very sleepy. And so I got that probably about midday that Wednesday, and I had that, and that's a very important part of the story. Again, it was just to help prevent stroke and from pretty much preeclampsia becoming eclampsia. So I had that throughout the major portion of the contractions anyways. And so got the epidural and they checked me one more time. I was ready to go. Like, I was 10 centimeters dilated. And Jordan actually went downstairs because it was around dinner time. So I was like, look, nothing's happening here. I have the epidural. I'm fine. Go get you some food, kind of a thing. Because he's pretty much just holed up in the hospital with me the whole time. So I was like trying to get him a break. And so he goes downstairs. And then my mom texted him and was like, yeah, you need to come back up because she's ready to go. And so he comes back upstairs and we're off to the OR. I had to deliver in an OR because of the possibility and risk that I would need to have a C-section. Oh man. So once I got the epidural, I had a relief and I felt like I could breathe, and I also felt like I could kind of be in the moment, which I'm really, looking back, I'm kind of grateful for. We go into the OR and they get all set up. So because they're twins and the fact that they were early, so that day they were exactly 33 weeks. In the OR, there was like 15 people in there. And so it was a lot between the anesthesiologist who just did my epidural. Then there were 2 teams from the NICU that were teams of 3. So, and then you have my doctor, a second doctor, the nurse that was in charge, then a second nurse, and like I said, it was chaos. And it wasn't like the OR was like massive, you know? It wasn't massive, and it was really crowded. So that was just a lot, and everyone was very nice and very, very supportive. I go through, and they said before I start pushing, I feel like I'm like going really into detail with this, so I might cut this out. But once I start to give birth to the first twin, they ask Jordan, you know, hey, do you want to tell her if it's a boy or a girl? Because he could obviously see, and I'm like obviously concentrating and also a little bit out of it because of all the freaking drugs in my system. Between the Pitocin, the magnesium, and then now an epidural, like I had a ton of drugs in my system. That was an incredible experience. Like, really, people say like there's nothing like it. I can't really think of anything like it. And with the epidural, I still was able to feel things. I was still able to push functionally. Like, I had all my functions, like I had all my limbs and all of my, I was like able to still do things. That was an experience like I've never experienced. And I'm so glad that like Jordan was with me and he got to fully experience. I'm glad of the people who I was surrounded with because they were very supportive. They were kind of cheering me on and they were trying to cheer him on. And actually someone, I think it was the anesthesiologist, took Jordan's phone and was just taking pictures and videos, which was so nice, honestly, because obviously we're trying to focus on what is actually happening. Like we're becoming parents for the first time, and not only to one baby, but 2. And I was able to give birth to both the twins vaginally, which is something I'm very proud of. But anyways, when the first baby came out, Jordan said, "It's a boy." And I immediately burst into tears because it was one of those things is I knew this entire pregnancy. I was like, it's a boy and a girl. It's a boy and a girl. And I was so adamant about that. So when the boy came out, the first boy came out, I was so excited. And then everyone was like, because it was kind of a thing. Everyone was so excited to know that it was a surprise. And we didn't tell anybody names that we had picked out. So everyone was like, okay, what's the name? What's the name? And so I told them the name is Leah. They were all excited to hear the name. I said, I don't know if I can, like I said out loud, I was like, I don't know if I can do that again. They were all laughing. They're like, yes, you can. You can totally do it again. Like, again, being very, very supportive. Yeah, I'm really, again, I'm grateful for the people we had around us. I'm going to go with the Sephora 12-hour retractable eyeliner in matte chocolate brown. Then I had 2 contractions, and then the second baby was born, And Jordan tells me, he goes, "It's a boy." And I was just so shocked that it was a boy, because I just had this feeling that one was a boy and one was a girl, that we had one of each. Everyone was all excited, and they're like, "What's his name?" And I said, "Henry." And granted, Leo and Henry are their nicknames. I won't give them their full names just for privacy reasons. But they're family names, and it's ones we've been very excited about. And they're here. Like, it was amazing. They were breathing on their own and doing so well. They weighed a little over 2 pounds. And I got to hold him, which is if you're following me on Instagram, and I also post it here on YouTube. If you haven't seen that post, go check out my profile for that post where I got to hold him for a little bit. They got swept off to the NICU, which was really hard, but I was mentally preparing myself for that to happen. And then Jordan and I went back to our room and, told our parents, showed the pictures. Yeah, that nurse was taking like so many pictures. So we had a ton of pictures. Again, super grateful for that. My epidural was detached, and so that was starting to go away. And yeah, they were born in the evening, 6 minutes apart, which is insane. People are still shocked that I gave birth to them vaginally, so I didn't have to have a C-section, which I was really, really happy about. First meal I have after labor is Taco Bell, because it was the only thing open near the hospital, because the hospital cafeteria was closed because it was so late at night, or later in the evening. And so my father-in-law was like, "Seriously, you had Taco Bell?" And I was like, "Yes, I had Taco Bell. It's the only option I had." I'm gonna just spray. For mascara, yeah, I'm just gonna go into the Cleantopia mascara from CoverGirl. Unfortunately, because I had an epidural, I was kind of bedridden, so I only could hold them for that few minutes after they were born, and then they were off to the NICU. I couldn't go see them because I couldn't walk or anything, but Jordan got to go see them, my parents got to go see them, and I pretty much rested that night. The other thing is, I plan on, I was told the nurse I plan on breastfeeding. She goes, "Okay." So because the boys were in the NICU and I still was like bedridden, I couldn't go see them to, start the breastfeeding process. So I had to pump. When I say rest, realistically it wasn't rest, because I had to be up every 3 hours to pump and get that going and start the process of collecting milk and going back and forth to the NICU, which is what Jordan was doing, because again I was bedridden. Going into the next day, now granted, this whole time I'm still on magnesium. They're still, making sure all good, and just monitoring me. I feel okay for the most part. And, nurses are taking care of me, doing all the fun postpartum stuff. If you're a mom, you know what I'm talking about. Don't need to go into graphic detail about that. I'm going to say it was probably about like midday. I guess I'm getting all this from the nurse at this point. I guess I was seeming a little sleepier than I needed to be, and also just kind of out of it. And then I was bleeding a lot more than they kind of expect me to, because they were doing a good job of, trying to get everything out that I needed to get out. So she seemed concerned. And so she let my doctor, my OB, know. And then she kind of took a look at me, like I said, not fully examine me or anything like that. But I'm like barely remembering this because I was kind of out of it, so this is a lot of from other people, honestly, that I was kind of told this. And my mom and Jordan were like in the room, and I think they were just coming back from going to see the boys from NICU, and And then this whole thing started, and I feel like it was just kind of 30 minutes of chaos. Like, my doctor came in with an ultrasound, and was like examining my body, well, no, I need to back up. So the thing that started, and so they started pressing on my stomach, and I passed a clot that was probably like this, I want to say like this big. It was like I was almost giving birth like a third time. And it was so painful. And I was, again, my epidural was gone, so I'm feeling everything at this point. I'm on magnesium. I don't think they were giving me a whole lot of medication or anything at that point. I think I was just taking some prenatals and like just keeping up with that. And I think that was it. And so I passed that, and they were just like, oh my gosh. And then after I passed that, I was still bleeding crazily. So that's when my doctor brought in the sonogram or the ultrasound machine, did some ultrasounds. She looked at me and she was like, you got multiple clots, and I may need to go clean these out. And if I don't get them out and you're still having an issue, we may have to go in surgically. She goes, and she looks at me, she goes, you're having a hemorrhage. And I was like, I'm out of it at this point. And I'm just like, okay, so as soon as that was like said and happened, I'm getting like pills shoved in my mouth that had to be under my tongue. And then I had a shot at one point in my leg. Then there was another pill that I had to, so it was just like, I was just out of it, getting pills shoved into my mouth. And then when the doctor told me, I was like, look, if you have to, like, I was at the point, I was like, done. I'm done with the pain. I'm exhausted. Like, if you need to do something, like, just knock me out, whatever. So she ended up giving me fentanyl, which, I was still pumping at this point. So that particular pump or next two, I didn't even bother giving the kids. I was like, toss those, because I have fentanyl in my system. I don't want to give that to them. And the nurse was like, fine, no problem. Jordan agreed. And so, yeah, she gave me fentanyl, and then she had to back up. I don't need to go spare details again. If you're a mom, you know what I'm talking. She had to go back up, clean everything out, and remove it. That experience was, I think, it was more horrible and painful, even though I had the fentanyl. Like, I still felt a lot of it, because I don't think it fully kicked in. Then I think, I may say, like, it might be on board with, like, all neck and neck of the labor contractions, Crohn's disease flare, and, like, all three of those were just, like, it was awful. And then I'm still on magnesium, and they're to prevent this. Then I have all these blood clotting pills that they shoved into me. Like, I was passing out there. So I just remembered, the pills getting shoved, and then at one point I look over, the nurse is shooting something in my leg, and they're putting something in my, like, it was just chaos, because they were trying to act fast, because obviously a hemorrhage is very, very dangerous. And then on top of it, because I had preeclampsia, I'm also at risk to having seizures after the birth and before the birth. So it was chaotic. And that whole day, like the next day that my kids, like the day after my kids were born, I didn't get to see them. I didn't get to go to them, nothing, because of just what all happened. And so they slowly took me off the magnesium, started taking me off things. We're talking like 8, 9 o'clock at night, I want to say. So, retract. I did get to see my kids, and this is when I did. At 8, 9 o'clock at night, the next day, so we're talking 24 hours after my kids have been born, I finally got to be up and go see them, which was not easy. And on top of it, I don't even think I got to fully process of like, oh crap, I'm a mom now. And because my kids were elsewhere, and I was dealing with a lot of my own medical issues. So 24 hours later, after I gave birth to my 2 boys, I finally got to go see them in the NICU with tubes coming out of them, feeding tube. They have all these monitors on them. They have like an IV and all these things, and they were so small. Whew. Which, granted, hormones and obviously just the crazy day I went through, that was really hard. I had a hard time. I had a hard time with that. But I was so happy to see them. Unfortunately, I couldn't hold them again because of just how delicate they were, and they had the IV in them. They didn't want to risk it getting ripped out, and it just, that was, again, very hard. And I'm now, I'm at lack of sleep too, because I'm up every 3 hours to pump, and and so I get moved to postpartum, and that's where I stay for 2 days just because of 2 more days because of the, risk of high blood pressure, and they want to make sure that, my blood pressure goes down and, I'm okay, the bleeding stopped, or at least the bleeding subsided. Granted, I don't think the bleeding was going to stop, but at that point, it be a normal amount. I got to, take a shower for the first time, and they were starting to give me Motrin for pain and all the stuff. So I'm getting exhausted, emotional, traumatized a little bit, and I'm detached from my boys that I've carried for, at that point, almost 8 months. I was a mess. As you can see, it's still hard for me to talk about, but I feel like it's important that I talk about it, because I feel especially when I've kind of researched, there's not a whole lot, at least from what I found, talking about the experience with twins and just experience with having an autoimmune disease and pregnancy. So I feel like I'm hoping that I can, not necessarily, it's not for entertainment, but if I can help somebody with just my story, or just with my experience, me talking about it, I hope I can help somebody. But lo and behold, that's not the end. So the next few days I get to kind of be in and out of the NICU. Obviously, I had major shakes after. My body was just constantly shaking after labor, which is normal. My body was in shock, obviously, and just, again, pumping, trying not to walk too much, try to do things slowly, but I was able to walk back and forth from the NICU for the next day, and, of course, get to see them. Don't get to hold them at that point. Now we're on their second day of life, and I haven't been able to hold them. After a shower and kind of cleaning myself up a little bit, I walk over, and I pass by the nurse that was helping me through the craziness. I don't know what else to call it. And she's just like, "Wow, I didn't even recognize you. You look like a completely different person." So I guess I was white as the wall behind me, just really out of it. So everything's fine with me. I get discharged, but my boys were not cleared to be discharged yet. They were, again, they were born around a little over 2 pounds, and they need to be about 4 pounds in order to be discharged. So they were going to be staying in the hospital. Whew. I thought I would be able to talk about this a little less emotionally. So I ended up going home that Saturday, trying to rest and, of course, pump every 3 hours. Also found out that the pump I did get, which is the LV wearable pump, I shouldn't use right away, which I didn't see anywhere where it said don't use a wearable pump in the beginning. So I ended up getting a Spectra 1. I think it was Spectra 1. And that's what I've been using ever since. Because there was a miscommunication at the hospital with the pump parts I was using there. So I have my own pump, just manual hospital grade pump. And I come home and I'm doing that. And I had to close the door to their nursery because I couldn't go in there and process, the fact that I'm not pregnant anymore, but my babies aren't here. I couldn't go into their nursery. I had to close the door because I needed to heal, which obviously it's a touchy subject for me, but I'm not afraid to say it. I needed to heal, and I needed to, again, process all of that. And then so that same day, I was like pretty much coming back and forth from the hospital multiple times, but they kept telling me, like, you should go rest, you should go rest, you should go rest. They're like, I know you're like kind of being super mom with the fact you gave birth to them vaginally, but you still, like, you gave birth to 2 kids, like, you need to go rest. So I came home, and ever since then I've been back and forth to the hospitals. Today they're 36 weeks, so this is 3 weeks. They're 3 weeks since they've been born, and unfortunately they are still there. However, yes, it sucks that they're there, but they are doing fantastic. They're not on respiratory support, and we're working on feeding. We're working on feeding and them gaining weight, but they are completely healthy. And the only thing is that they're just small, and they're immature, and it's not a dig. It's just the fact that they were born 7 weeks early. And all the doctors and nurse practitioners are, amazed and shocked with how well they're doing, with the fact that they're twins, because twins themselves tend to be smaller, and then 2 tend to be less mature because of just the sheer fact that they have to split all the nutrients that I gave them while they were in the womb, and then on top of it, I'm a small person, so it's not a shock that they were small. And then the immaturity thing is just, again, they were born early, so it's just getting them to be mature and getting them to the right weight, and also so they could feed properly and the right amount, and so they can still continue to grow and maintain their temperature. So yeah, they're still there. So that's what I've been doing every day since they've been born, is go back and forth to the hospital, which is very, very tough. And I've kind of gone out, and I've gone to soccer. I haven't played, obviously. I'm not clear to play or anything. I've talked to people, and people have been really sweet and asked me how things are going, and then they, I have a lot of people say, oh, well, just wait until they're, talking about how tired I am and just how exhausted I am, and then they do just wait until they're home. And I said, honestly, and I've even talked to some other NICU moms, and they have said that this process, as important as it is, that the fact that they're there, they're healthy, they're getting taken care of, they're doing what they're supposed to do, they're not home. And I'm having to drive, granted it's like 10 minutes, but 20 minutes out of my day, I'm driving to go see them. And, a minimum, it could be more if I go there multiple times a day, which at, probably by the time you're seeing this, I'm at the point, hopefully they're home, or 2, I'm there for multiple, like, they're probably all day. So when I talked to other NICU moms, they said, like, this is honestly more stressful. This is more stressful, I think, than them being home. And the fact that I have 2, granted, I'm probably going to be even more tired when they're home, but the fact that they're home, and that tells me, like, they're healthy, they're thriving, because it's a lot of back and forth. And in the morning, I'm good. And I'm like, yay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go see them, I need to, and I'm going to get to hold, now I'm at the point, like, they're okay, so I get to hold them. Again, we're working on feeding. Oh gosh, this is why I wasn't planning on doing, like, a crazy makeup look, because I knew I would cry. Oh man. Yeah, so I'm at the point where I'll be up there for multiple feedings in a row, and, you know, just being with them pretty much all day. And like the difference is like when I'm there and I'm holding them and they have all these wires and stuff still attached to them. So like diaper changes are not the easiest because you have to think about that. So it's like when they're home, you're just fussing with their limbs on the diaper change. You can hold them and, you know, you're not having to worry, oh, I have to put them back and, you know, back in their little isolette in 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever. They're like, again, they're here and you're not having to hear constant beeps. And in the beginning, I like, you know, hearing anything on their monitor, it would freak me out because it'd be like, oh crap, something's wrong. And they wouldn't let them go home if that was like continually happening, because that means like they're not monitoring like their heart rate or their breathing rate. So I've met a mom there and she's been there with her daughter for 7 weeks and I'm on week 3 and I'm just like, I just want them home. And I'm pretty sure she feels the same way. And she goes, yeah, I'm ready to be done. And you know, I'm just ready to be home, because it's not just, oh, it's nice that you have a nurse taking care of them and you can like go do other things, but it's the mental aspect of like, okay, if I want to go see my kid or kids for me, I have to get up, get dressed. And I'm not even putting on makeup. Like, this is the first time I've put on makeup in, I want to say, a week at least. And I have to get up, get dressed, drive for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go see them, make sure I have snacks, make sure I have their breast milk, make sure I have all those things, and then come back home so I can give myself a break and, you know, the rest that I'm supposed to be doing, and pump, and then this, and then I gotta go back to give them more milk. If I'm home and they're home, everything is here. If I don't want to go anywhere, I don't have to. That's the mentally exhausting part. And then also, night is the hardest, which is probably why it was a dumb idea for me to film this at night. But night for me is the hardest because I have to wait at least 12 hours to go see them. Now, realistically, I can go there anytime, but is it probably good for me to be like, okay, it's midnight, I probably should go see them? Like, you know, at some point I need to get my sleep and rest. Like, they're getting their sleep and their rest and doing what they need to do. Because, yeah, with the NICU that we're at, it's wonderful, the fact that it's open to me and Jordan 24 hours. So I can be there at 3 in the morning if I wanted to be. Granted, if it's not during their time where they could, you know, they're not napping, I can't like pick them up, or, you know, trying to let them grow and gain the weight that they need to be. And the more they're picked up and they're active, the more calories they're burning, and, you know, obviously that's hindering their weight gain. So it's night for me is the hardest. Do I get through it? Because it's like, okay, I go to sleep and I do what I need to do, you know, up every 2-3 hours to pump, I will see them in the morning. And I look forward to the morning. Granted, I'm not a morning person, so it's very weird to look forward to the morning. I'm not making this video or saying these things to just for pity or, you know, woe is me kind of a thing. I'm just trying to tell my story. I'm just trying to tell my experience and what's been going on, because again, I just want to, you know, I need to get it off my chest, and I hope it helps somebody, because I've not really seen a whole lot of people talk about their NICU experience or their labor and delivery experience, especially with someone who has autoimmune disorder and twins. Oh, I didn't talk about this. So the fun thing about my like postpartum, I guess, medications that they were giving me, I realized they were giving me ibuprofen, which is a huge no-no for someone with Crohn's disease. So the Saturday when I come home, I end up having a massive flare-up. And I'm thinking, when it occurred, I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm bleeding again, like, or, I'm having an issue, or, maybe I'm passing a clot again or something, and I'm like starting to freak out, and I go to check, and I'm not, and I'm like, what the heck? I wake up Sunday morning, because, they give us a whole list of make sure you have your medication, and I look up Motrin, and Motrin is straight up ibuprofen, which I am so shocked that they had that in my chart, because it clearly in my chart it says I have Crohn's disease, and I don't know why there wasn't a red flag of like, hey, don't give this girl ibuprofen because she has Crohn's disease. Give her Tylenol. Give her something else that doesn't, cause a flare-up. I was like, oh, okay, not taking that. I guess I'll stick to my Tylenol for any pain I have. I'm gonna go with the NYX Slick Click Fat Oil in what is this? Hits Different. This is not my favorite, but I have it, so I'm trying to use it. As of right now, boys are still not home, but they're doing fine. They're doing great, which is a God-given blessing, honestly, because it's something I prayed for the entire pregnancy, is that they're happy and they're healthy. I didn't care if they were boys, girls, whatever. I wanted them happy and healthy. I wanted, me happy and healthy so I can be a good mom to them. But now I'm like kind of praying that the day that they get to come home is getting closer. And honestly, I am a Christian, and my faith is the only thing, besides obviously my family and friends. But the biggest thing is my faith is getting me through this. Because I feel like without it, and without holding on to the fact that God has a plan, this was part of it. And this was part of his plan for them. Part of his plan for me. Like, it's the only, there's a reason. Now, am I going to know what that reason is tomorrow, next week, or is it going to be years from now? I don't know. But I don't need to know. I have to understand that I don't understand. And if you're a Christian, you know what that means. And if you believe in other things, that's fine. I'm not trying to, again, push. I'm trying to just express, again, what's helping me get through this really wonderfully tough time, because again, I wake up every day and I go see those boys, and those boys mean the world to me. And yeah, I get it. There is nothing like being a parent, and I feel like I will feel that more once they're home and the wonderful chaos ensues or commences, whatever word you want to use. I'm forever, I'm so grateful that I get to be their mom, and gosh, I hope they get to come home soon. Who knows, maybe they'll be home by the time this video goes up. We'll see how long it takes me to edit it, and hopefully not cry again. Please, thank you for bearing with me on, just being really open and honest about my experience of delivering and going through labor for my twin boys. I'm so happy that they're here. I still wish that they waited a little longer, but again, everything happens for a reason, and it wasn't like they induced me. My body did it on its own, so we kind of make a joke, especially Leo being the first one, that he was ready to come out. That's the experience of me delivering my boys. Again, I hope they get to come home soon. I, again, will link every product that I use down below. Granted, again, this was a very simple makeup look, so nothing crazy, but it was just something for me to do while I kind of chit-chatted and thought it would distract me from being emotional. But you know what? I'm trying to be honest, and if the emotions come out, the emotions come out. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are a NICU mom or a mom of twins, let me know if your experience was similar down below in the comments. And if you want to know a little bit more about my pregnancy and that whole journey, I have a playlist which will be linked down below, as well as the nursery makeover, which I'm so happy with. And my mom and Jordan did a fantastic job of finishing that up for me, since I couldn't completely finish it. And yeah, I'm so excited to be a mom of twin boys. Subscribe if you are new here. New videos will be coming every single week. We'll see how it goes for when the twins are here and I figure out that process. But follow me along on Instagram and yeah, to see how that goes. So please bear with me on that, and I will again get videos up as soon as I can. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.